Okay, so Shimmer Reverb, this is something that I've been excited about for quite a while now. I'm a really big fan of Shimmer Reverbs on some other devices, so Fractal for instance, I think do a really good job of this kind of thing. Even the Kemper has some really nice shimmers on there. The Shimmer Reverb actually, I think around the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois, is that how his name is said? I don't know. They basically were experimenting with some rack reverb and pitch things, and the idea of a shimmer was that you'd send the signal back pitched up through the reverb and sort of cascade it through, and that was a studio thing for quite a while, and then it became a rack thing, so you could get this on, you know, Lexicon, bits and pieces, Eventide. And then later on, I think in the 90s, Digitech actually introduced the first pedal version of the shimmer. This was in the Space Station. Since then, we've seen the shimmer crop up in lots of different places. Line 6 first did one with the Octo Reverb. Now we've got one here, the shimmer here. So when you first pull it up, it will sound like this. And there's two different algorithms. So Lustre is actually a completely different shimmer, apparently a different algorithm. You see that the tail of Sheen seems longer. So I'm just going to experiment with Sheen, I think, because that's the one that, for me, has the longer tail, is the sort of sound that I'm interested in. So pitch A and pitch B, we've got basically two pitch elements to this, so that's how much the shimmer is going to be chucking the pitch of the actual thing up. So that's an octave. You can also go down an octave. So for the simplest kind of sounds that are going to be easiest to play, I would keep either it as one octave up or maybe an octave up in unison. The thing is, once you introduce, so if you have pitch up 7, for instance, so this is up a perfect fifth, you start to introduce sort of avoid notes. So you have to be kind of careful that you don't play a note which is going to end up giving you some ugly overtones. So if I play a D, I'm fine. E, I'm fine. F sharp, I'm fine. I think G sharp, the fifth above G sharp is D sharp, which would not work in this key of A major, so I have to be careful to avoid the 7th if I'm going to be playing. With this kind of shimmer. So that's something to bear in mind. So I'm going to leave it on the +7 for now, but bear in mind that I'm actively avoiding playing the 7th of any major key that I'm in. Intensity seems to affect how much of this shimmer is actually involved. And if you turn this down, you can get rid of the crystal element. So for instance, if you wanted just the traditional reverb sound and then you just want to switch on the shimmer element, you could do that with this one block. So you would have the snapshot control intensity. So if I leave that there, So you'll hear now that on snapshot 3, it will basically be just a normal reverb. And then I can bring in on snapshot 2 the shimmer. So you can think about that intensity as sort of a shimmer mix. Now the feedback controls whether whether the reverb sends more of that pitch signal back through the pitch. So if you leave it on 0, we get like the flat sound without the crystal, so it's not cascading up in pitch. It's just staying static. So if you've got a decay here all the way up to, I think, 45 seconds. So I like to put this up to about 20 seconds for some really kind of spacey stuff. Pre-delay, let's take that down. Obviously you know what pre-delay does. That basically is the amount of time before it sort of starts to do its thing. So I think that feedback at 0 will give you, as I say, you're not cascading up in pitch. As we bring that in, you're going to probably find that it starts to then have higher shimmer artifacts. And if we bring it in still further, at 40, you'll probably get fairly... So it's kind of subtle. Let's put it back to 0. It's not super obvious what's happening here. Back to 40. You're getting some of those overtones, and then as we bring it further up, let's take it to 75. You're getting more of that kind of crystal element to it, and then 100%. And you get quite a lot of then drift there. So maybe like 40% is quite a nice happy medium where you're getting a bit of that overtone. Something like that. So 40% I'd suggest. The mix, you know what that does. Pitch blend, you've got 2 pitch shifters, right? So we can have it so that only one is being affected. So this is the octave up, I think. Or if we put it to B, and again, a thing you could use is snapshots. So you could say, right, for this part of the song, I only want this to be up an octave. For this next part of the song, I need it to be +7. So you could, with snapshots, you could switch it between So say we did it like this, and then B. Now we could have it switching, so you could go, okay, right, I'm an octave up. And then now I'm a fifth up. And then you could even say, all right, since I don't want any shimmer on this snapshot A, now we've got no shimmer on snapshot 1. Up an octave on snapshot 2. And then up a fifth on snapshot 3. So quite powerful, and you know, that's what you could potentially do with this here. So your pitch blend is going to be affecting how much of pitch A or B you've got, and that's pitch A, that's pitch B. So you can have kind of two settings. Pre-delay, you know what that does. Decay, that's fairly self-explanatory. Obviously, the longer the decay, the more ambient, the more experimental it's going to sound. I think it's a really beautiful sound. I think if you get this all the way up, you can get infinity, which is not infinite, but it's pretty long. So 20 seconds is a good sort of happy medium where you've got a really long evolving reverb, but it's not, you know, crazy long. We've got a size, so this will affect, I think, the kind of density of the reverb. For me personally, I'm looking for a big spacey sound, so 30 is good. Damping, so what this does is this is affecting how much of the metallic kind of sound gets let into the reverb. So 5 kilohertz is the default. If we open this all the way up, you'll hear what happens. This is what we're maybe trying to avoid. But you'll hear there's some of that metallic stuff. So if we open the high cut all the way, so there's two ways to kind of control this factor. So this will be the kind of brightest that this can sound. So if we take this down to about 10 kilohertz, we have less of that, and then if you take it down to 5, that's probably one of the most powerful controls on this particular effect. So take it all the way down here. Dull it off a lot, but 5 kilohertz is a good happy medium. But take it up further if you're thinking, right, well this is missing some of that kind of futuristic. I'm going to imagine all of these controls have a bit of a different effect depending on which algorithm you're using. diffusion sets basically the delays smear more. So you get it's a bit more of like a lingering cloud type sound. So diffusion I really like set high. As it sort of kind of decays into more droplets and is a bit of a smoother sound. Motion is to do with like the sound modulation. So I think without any motion at all, things can sound a bit sterile. 3 to me does seem to be the perfect sweet spot where you get some kind of modulation to get rid of some of that synthetic feeling. Then we got trails, then a high cut and a low cut. You know what those do, but the high cut be wary of. So this can use high cut and damping to kind of get that balance of sparkle that you want. It's set fairly low. I think you can afford to go a bit higher. Those are just some of the settings that I like. So don't be afraid to take that high cut way higher than what it is, because if you're not feeding this damping in crazy high, then you're not going to get ugly tones out of it anyway. So damping between 5 and 10 kilohertz I think sounds good. Diffusion I like to chuck all the way up. The size I like to take all the way up as well. Pre-delay I personally don't mind that taken all the way down. Decay 20 seconds to me seems like a good mid spot for these sweet ambient tones. Pitch blend, try using that to get sort of 2 settings out of the pedal. The mix, you know, obviously set that wherever you like. The feedback, as I say, is how much of this crystalline element that we're introducing in. So lower, you'll have a very stable shimmer, which is just the pitches that you set here. Higher, and you're starting to introduce, it keeps going up through that pitch, so you get these crystal repeats and sort of that crystal cascading cloud sound. Intensity is like the amount of actual shimmer. If you take intensity all the way out, you remove the pitch element, and then pitch, obviously that controls those things. And then type, we've got 2 shimmer algorithms, Lustre and Sheen. I think I prefer Charlie, but give both a try depending on what you're up for. Hopefully that was very useful and gives you some sense of how I might dial in this particular effect. I was sort of asked about this, so I thought that would be how I do it. Very cool reverb, and it's so cool that we've now got access to these tones in the Helix. Thank you to Norm. Wait, was this one Norm? Brandon? Yeah, Brandon, I think. Thank you, Brandon. Oh, feel free to like and subscribe. There's plenty more videos on 3.15 on the channel. I'm sure you probably not missed them. I've been going a bit nuts for 3.15. I'm really enjoying it, but you can grab this preset in the folder if you want it. Cheers.